Now, in the wake of Brexit and rising opinion poll support for Scottish independence, there is little doubt that the Union is under significant strain. But how should those who wish to preserve the UK respond? Do they have the arguments to win any second referendum? Over the weekend, Gordon Brown was one of many who addressed a conference organised by the pro-union think tank These Islands. STV's political editor Colin Mackay joined them in Newcastle.
The debate on Scotland's future sometimes seems a bit one-sided. There's plenty of independence supporters who are happy to talk about strategy or the timing of another referendum. They'll take to the streets in their thousands to promote their cause, but no one is marching for the Union. In fact, sometimes it's really hard to get someone from the Union to address the debate beyond just saying no to rule things out. So that's why I've come to Newcastle, to the Discovery Museum, to try and find out what that side of the debate is thinking.
One of the reasons why we held this event here in Newcastle was because we believe that both metaphorically and literally, we need more English accents in this debate.
These Islands is a pro-UK campaign group. There were about 300 people at its first conference, including 60 speakers, beginning with the former Prime Minister Gordon Brown.
So nationalism is us versus them. Nationalism is also forcing people sometimes to make a choice. I can think of myself as Scottish and British. People here may think of themselves as English and European, but you're forced to make a choice. Brexit forces a choice. Scottish nationalism forces a choice. It is us or them.
After the independence and Brexit referendums, he believes Scotland is one of the most divided countries in the world. I put it to him that the easiest way to clear that up could be another referendum.
We've had, I think, 100 polls since 2014, maybe 110 or 120, and maybe 2 of them have been for independence. That's not the basis of having a referendum. You keep coming back to wanting a referendum. I keep coming to what can unite Scotland. It's clear that a referendum won't unite Scotland. It's clear that the divisions are there, and it's clear that we've got to listen to people, talk to them, find a way of seeing, is there common ground in this country, or are we to be divided for years to come?
So you think Boris Johnson is right to say no?
There's no case for a referendum at this stage. I mean, you know, we haven't got the terms of the arrangement with Europe sorted out. It was to be based on...
There's a majority in the Scottish Parliament who want a referendum.
But hold on. Nicola Sturgeon said in 2016 that she wanted to know what the terms of the relationship with Europe was going to be. We don't know the terms of the relationship. She's been wanting a referendum even before we know the terms of the arrangement. There is no demand at this moment of a majority for a referendum.
I think there's quite widespread appreciation here is that they probably will be faced with the reality of another independence referendum in the not too distant future, and that a lot of the conversation here has been about people trying to think about what are the arguments on the unionist side that might be more effective than a campaign that in 2014, which might have won the eventual vote, but frankly did lose ground during the course of the campaign. And it's indeed as a result of the fact that they lost ground in the campaign that we might have another second referendum in the not too distant future.
Fiona Hill was one of Theresa May's most senior advisers. In a rare public appearance, she was critical of Better Together, and others on our panel say there's no chance of a repeat.
During that period, I was genuinely concerned, as my then boss was, Theresa May, as was Alistair Darling, that we were being forced into doing what a lot of people described as this Project Fear campaign. And I just don't think those campaigns actually really work. I think that they make people actually feel more isolated, and then they're probably likely to vote in the opposite direction.
I don't think there should be necessarily another Better Together. I think strength in numbers is the way to go. In all these campaigns, quite often you end up having to have a particular campaign which is in charge, but I think the best way to go at the moment would be for all the various strands of thought to actually go their own way.
We need people from all political persuasions in Scotland to come together, but what we probably will not see this time is having a formal arrangement between the pro-UK parties in Scotland, because so many were burned at the last referendum.
So what's their alternative offer? Gordon Brown talked of federalism, as did the Scottish Lib Dem leader.
I actually believe we've got sufficient powers in the Holyrood Parliament already, perhaps.
Andy Burnham, you're the Mayor of Manchester, but is there any demand in Manchester? Is there any demand here in the north east of England for more federalism, for more devolution?
There is. People enjoy the measure of power that we've got at the moment, but in Greater Manchester there's certainly a call for more. Let's have more control over our skills system. Let's run the Department for Work and Pensions, because we feel we could do a better job of it than the tick box regime that we get at a national level. So no, there is a call for more, but not to break away. You know, people want to stay part of the UK, but actually with more ability to set our own priorities.
Do you think people in the north of England care whether Scotland stays part of the UK or not?
I do. I think they care very much. And I remember 2014 and the kind of sense of unease people had, you know, because we feel in the north that we have more in common with people in Scotland, Liverpool with Glasgow, Manchester with Edinburgh or Aberdeen. You know, we feel an affinity there.
Federalism is really a word that doesn't have a meaning for too many politicians. You know, often we hear about it as if it's a new idea, as if it's a zero-based approach to rebalancing the United Kingdom. But very often what they mean is just more devolution. It's just another tranche of more powers, but with a new label applied to it in order to try and disguise the fact that it's simply the same politicians applying the same idea that hasn't been working from a unionist perspective for 20 years.
Is it in any way an answer to the independence debate and the independence question in Scotland?
Well, not really, because currently that word doesn't mean anything. I think the challenge that devolutionaries who advocate federalism need to answer is, why is this different?
Someone described this to me today as an ultra-unionist conference, and if you look at the makeup of the audience, they certainly are that. They're also mostly male, and there's not much youth on show. But how concerned are they about the prospect of another independence referendum?
I'm petrified, because even if it's won by the no side, it's going to really divide Scotland even more than it is just now.
Do you think there is a real prospect of another independence referendum?
Not this year, I don't think. But I think if the SNP were to get into Holyrood again with a government, I can't see how Boris Johnson or anybody could, whether he would want to or not, or whether he was right to deny it. I don't think they can deny it.
Do you think the pro-independence side of this campaign be paying attention to what's coming out of a conference like this?
Yes, because what this conference is acknowledging, and congratulations to Kevin Hagan, organisers and independence supporters really need to understand, the union is, for all its problems, the union is always constantly evolving and changing and adapting, as is Britain. And ideas here and elsewhere may contribute to aiding that. I mean, if the United Kingdom, I'm just saying if it successfully reformed itself and became less unequal and more democratic, that would be a huge challenge. It would be welcome for a start, but a huge challenge to the independence argument.
The threat of another independence referendum never went away, and it is, at the moment at least, ever present.
Boris Johnson says not in his term in office, not in the next 5 years. Have you anything to be worried about then?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I am very much of the view that if there is, as Nicola Sturgeon, previously said, was her criteria actually, that if there was sustained, overwhelming public desire for independence in Scotland, then it would be impossible to stop that. And I think actually that's true. I think there is only so long that Westminster can deny the will of the Scottish people, if that is the clear expressed will of the Scottish people.